We have some breaking Iran news now. Members of Congress are now calling for the 25th Amendment to be invoked following Donald Trump's unhinged Easter morning post calling for essentially war crimes on the Iranian people.
Those are civilian infrastructures, and destroying those are crimes, war crimes. So whatever happens to your sons and daughters in war, no, it is because Donald Trump and because Congress refused to use the 25th Amendment to remove a mentally unstable, a mentally unwell man from office.
Donald Trump needs to be impeached, removed, jailed, and buried under the jail. This is insanity. He is a war criminal, a financial criminal, a sex criminal, and anyone who will not say that in the Democratic Party does not care about you and does not care about this country. It is time to be upset.
What you're seeing here right now is one of the most intense political firestorms in recent U.S. history, where foreign policy, constitutional law, and public fear are all colliding at once. Anyway, guys, if you're new here, please do not forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment in the comment section. All right, to original creators of these videos. In here, we all talk about what's happening around the globe, recent news that people do not want to talk about. We share more light into things happening around the globe. So sit tight, and then we come back and talk about what's happening, and we will discuss about this some more. I'll let the rest of the clips play out, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about everything. And please drop your comments in the comment section, because I always want to know what you all think. Okay, thank you always for supporting Cloud Pause, and thank you so much for watching my videos. All right, let's let the rest of videos play out, and then we'll come back and then we'll discuss about this. Let's watch.
Is it time for the 25th Amendment after Donald Trump's latest rant on Truth Social, where he threatens Tuesday will be Power Plant Day and Bridge Day, all wrapped up in one in Iran? There will be nothing like it. Open the effing straight, you crazy betards, or you'll be living in hell. Just watch. Praise be to Allah. President Donald J. Trump. Clearly, J.D. Vance and Trump's cabinet, you all really need to be considering the 25th Amendment. You really, really do. What do you all think? I mean, this is not something a president should be posting, should be saying, and he wonders why he's getting the response he's getting with these threats. Iran does not respond to threats like this. They're not going to. They're not going to respond to Donald Trump, the bully. What do you all think? 25th Amendment is time. Love to hear from my Democrats, my MAGAs, my crazies, my cuckoos, and the burned out light bulbs. It's time this cabinet and J.D. Vance do one thing right.
Conservatives are calling on J.D. Vance to invoke the 25th Amendment against Donald Trump as blowback from the Iran war is rising. Now, as you know, many conservatives, many people on the right are upset with Donald Trump because they believe he broke a core campaign promise of no foreign wars, no nation building, no regime change. And now many conservatives are calling on the 25th Amendment to be used. Among them is Scott McConnell, who's the co-founder of the American Conservative magazine, a lifelong conservative, who says, my advice to Vance, announce your support of the 25th Amendment transition. Use your position and access to the media to explain why this is necessary. This is not some never Trumper or some moderate Republican. This is a hardcore conservative that wants the 25th Amendment invoked against Donald Trump. Now, I don't believe that J.D. Vance has any part of him that is willing to make this move. He absolutely does not have the courage for that. But the fact that some of the support for Donald Trump is breaking and it's going this far shows that there is still a little hope for our country yet. In November, we can change this.
Both Democrats and Republicans are now calling for the 25th Amendment to be used against Donald Trump after he threatened to commit a genocide against the people of Iran this morning. So this is what Trump posted at 8 a.m. I'm sure you've seen it by now. He said, quote, "A whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will." People across the aisle are condemning it. For example, Marjorie Taylor Greene, one of Donald Trump's former biggest fans, saying 25th Amendment, "Not a single bomb has dropped in America. We cannot kill an entire civilization. This is evil and madness." And she's right. Representative AOC on the other side of the aisle saying this is a threat of genocide and merits removal from office. The president's mental facilities are collapsing and cannot be trusted. To every individual in the president's chain of command, you have a duty to refuse illegal orders. That includes carrying out this threat. Governor J.B. Pritzker of Illinois saying this is not foreign policy. It's a deranged madman threatening to wipe out an entire country. It's past time. The 25th Amendment must be invoked. You have representatives, you have senators, you have governors, all calling for the same thing, the 25th Amendment to be used against Donald Trump. Members of our government, top down, are saying he's gone insane, he needs to go.
This message is for Congress. Please invoke the 25th Amendment.
If the 25th Amendment was written for anything, it was written for this.
The 25th Amendment should be used immediately.
It's not impeachment. It's called the 25th Amendment.
Okay, let's talk about the 25th Amendment, because this is quite the hot topic on social media, especially given Trump's Easter morning truth. So let's get into it. First and foremost, the 25th Amendment is not going to happen. The 25th Amendment is not going to save us, and let's talk about why. Let's start off with this. Congress has nothing to do with the 25th Amendment, at least not the invocation of the 25th Amendment. That power lies with the Vice President and a majority of the cabinet. They are the ones that have to invoke the 25th Amendment and initiate it. Congress has no say in it. So let's go over real quick what the process of the 25th Amendment would look like if it were to happen. It's not going to. The Vice President and the majority of the cabinet would sign a declaration and send it to the Senate Pro Tem and the Speaker of the House, saying that they are invoking the 25th Amendment because the President of the United States is unable to discharge the duties of the office. And, according to the Constitution, as soon as that declaration is made, the Vice President becomes the acting president. However, in order for the president to reassume his or her duties as president, all they would have to do is send over a declaration to the Senate Pro Tem and the Speaker of the House claiming, "No, I'm fine, I can discharge the duties of the office." Then the Vice President and the majority of the cabinet would have to redeclare that no, the president is not, and then, and only then, does Congress have a say. When Congress does get their say in the process, they must vote by a 2/3 majority in both chambers to keep the president out of the office. That's right, 2/3 of the House and 2/3 of the Senate must vote to keep the president out of the office. That means the 25th Amendment would be considerably more difficult than the normal impeachment process. A regular impeachment process only requires a simple majority vote in the House of Representatives to impeach a president. Then the Senate must vote by a 2/3 majority to convict and remove the president from office. But the 25th Amendment requires a 2/3 majority from both chambers. Impeachment only requires it from the Senate. So, while I agree with the sentiment that Donald Trump should not be the President of the United States, that he is in fact unfit and most likely unable to discharge the duties of the office of the President, the 25th Amendment is not how we're going to get him out. The 25th Amendment is not going to save us. What is going to save us is us. We have to turn out in record numbers for the midterm elections. We take back the House, we take back the Senate, then we get to legislate, then we get to investigate on democratic terms.
Trump's claim for his war on Iran was that he was freeing the Iranian people and that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. Donald Trump is now destroying civilian infrastructure, blowing up little girls' schools, and I'm sure is on the verge of threatening nuclear war. If anyone is a threat to produce nuclear fucking Armageddon, it is Donald Trump. And right now, if you are not just in his cabinet, but this is why Donald Trump is driven so crazy and made an additional post. If you are one of the big money donors to Trump, how are you profiting off of this? Right, if you're Larry Ellison, if you're Miriam Adelson, it makes sense. But if you're Elon Musk, I guess you just support the fact that Donald Trump wants a $1.5 trillion military budget. And for that reason, you can get huge AI contracts, which Elon has already gotten from the government. But there's a certain point when this instability starts to really worry these guys. And they put J.D. Vance in there, the tech oligarchs who also elected Donald Trump president, for a reason. Donald Trump was told that J.D. Vance was going to be his vice president because if he had some, run-of-the-mill centrist Republican, some establishment type, then they would try to take him out. But I think Donald Trump is feeling more pressure when 25th Amendment calls go out because they could replace him with J.D. Vance, the very people who got him elected, which is why he continued to angrily post, trying to gain any ground, get the cards, any leverage, this right here. The first post was not enough for Donald Trump. He doubled down, writing Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. He is scheduling out his threats of war crimes right now. Not a single Democrat should be quiet in the face of the need, the absolute emergency that it is for us to call for the 25th Amendment. And not just that, you cannot be a collaborator with this fascist regime in any way, including funding Donald Trump's illegal war.
Articles of impeachment are being introduced against Pete Hegseth as more and more members of Congress call for Donald Trump to be removed via the 25th Amendment. Congresswoman Yasmin Ansari just posted this on Twitter, announcing that she's filing these articles of impeachment, saying Trump is escalating a devastating, illegal war, threatening massive war crimes and targeting civilian infrastructure in Iran. In the last 48 hours alone, the rhetoric has crossed every line. Pete Hegseth is complicit. I've called for the 25th Amendment and am introducing articles of impeachment against Hegseth. A number of Democrats have come out in favor of using the 25th Amendment against Donald Trump, not only because he's doing this war in Iran that is completely illegal, but also his health is very clearly declining. And as we've spoken about, there are even some Republicans who are saying that Donald Trump has just completely lost his mind, he's erratic, he's unhinged, and somebody needs to step in and stop him. We will see how far these articles of impeachment go. Remember, Republicans control the House of Representatives. This is where it'll be handled, so will they vote in favor of them? Probably not, but it is still the right thing to do.
The 25th Amendment is not going to save us. Let's just be clear on that. A lot of people misunderstand what the 25th can do. It does have a provision for the vice president and cabinet to declare the president unable to discharge his duties and the vice president takes over as acting president. But that does not remove the president from office. This is what would happen. The vice president and a majority of the cabinet would notify Congress that for XYZ reasons, the president cannot function as president. Therefore, the vice president's going to take over. But then the president, if he's able, can pretty much immediately notify Congress, hey, I'm actually fine, I can be president, no problems here. And then for 4 days, the vice president remains acting president, and the cabinet and vice president can notify Congress again, we don't think the president can discharge his duties. If they don't do that within 4 days, then the president resumes his duties. But if they do, then Congress convenes and they have 21 days to vote on it. And then the only way to keep the president out of power permanently would be for both chambers of Congress to vote with a 2/3 majority to keep him out. 2/3 in both the House and the Senate, which means it would actually be even harder for this to happen than it would be to just impeach and remove him the way that we're all familiar with. Because with that, you just need a simple majority in the House and then 2/3 majority in the Senate. So to summarize, for the 25th Amendment, you would need a majority of the cabinet with the vice president and 2/3 in the House and 2/3 in the Senate to remove the president from power. For impeachment, you would need a simple majority of the House and a 2/3 majority in the Senate. And you and I both know that neither of those things is going to happen with this current Congress, okay? So make sure to vote in November if you want to have a chance. Besides that, our best hope is just the circle of life doing its thing. So, pray to whatever deity you need to.
So there's a growing sense of alarm spreading across political circles and among ordinary citizens after Trump made explosive social media statements threatening Iran's critical infrastructure and specifically mentioning power plants, bridges, and even language suggesting the destruction of an entire civilization. This is not just another controversial post, this is different because when a sitting US president publicly talks about targeting infrastructure that civilians rely on, electricity, transportation, national systems, it crosses into territory that international law experts say could be considered war crimes if acted upon. Under the rules of war, specifically in the Geneva Conventions, international targeting civilians, infrastructure, or population is strictly prohibited. That's why so many lawmakers reacted immediately, not just with criticism, but with something much more serious, calls to invoke the 25th Amendment, and that's where things become historic. The 25th Amendment is not about punishing a president. It's about one thing only: fitness to lead. It allows the vice president and a majority of the cabinet to declare that the president is unable to carry out their duties. If that happens, power is temporarily transferred. But invoking it is extremely rare and politically explosive. Yet now, voices across the political spectrum are raising it. We are not just talking about opposition figures. Reports show that even some unexpected allies and conservatives' voices have expressed concern about the tone and implications of this threat. That alone tells you how serious the situation has become. What triggered all this, people may ask. A series of escalating statements, including one where Trump warned that Iran could face devastation if it did not comply with US. Demands regarding the Strait of Hormuz. At one point, his rhetoric included warnings that a whole civilization could be wiped out. Think about that. A statement like that doesn't just stay online, it echoes globally. It alarms allies, it energizes enemies, it puts military leaders in impossible positions. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. If orders are given that violate international law, military personnel are not legally obligated to follow them. That creates a dangerous tension between civilian leadership and military responsibility. Inside the United States, the reaction has been fierce. Some lawmakers have openly described the statement as dangerous, unhinged, and are even a threat to commit a war crime. Others have gone further, questioning whether the president is mentally fit to make decisions that could potentially trigger a large-scale war. And this is where public opinions comes in. Citizens are now asking, is this strategy or instability? Is this negotiation or escalation? Is this leadership or recklessness? Because when nuclear capable nations are involved, rhetoric alone can be dangerous. But here's the reality many people don't fully understand. Even though calls from the 25th Amendment are growing louder, actually invoking it is extremely difficult. It would require the vice president to agree, a majority of the cabinet to agree, and a political will to act against a sitting president. And right now, those conditions are unlikely. People may ask why. Well, because loyalty, party politics, and fear of backlash all play a role. So while the conversation is intense, the action itself remains uncertain. Meanwhile, the global stage is watching. In Iran, civilians have reportedly formed human chains around infrastructure sites like power plants, literally putting their bodies in front of potential targets. That alone shows how seriously these threats are being taken. This is no longer just political threat, it's real world fear. So what are we witnessing in a moment of tension on multiple levels? A potential international crisis, a constitutional debate inside the US, a test of leadership, restraint, and global responsibility. And at the center of it all is one question. At what point does rhetoric become too dangerous to ignore? Because history has shown us over and over that words from powerful leaders don't just stay words, they can become actions, and actions change the world overnight. Well guys, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop your comments in the comment section. Let me know what you all think about this. Do you really think that this is just talks or mail posts that has been shared online, or you think that this whole thing is actually going to be acted upon? All right, drop your thoughts in the comment section. Let's discuss. Please all rights remain to the original creators of these clips are posted. All right, thanks so much for watching Cloud Pause. Thanks so much for supporting Cloud Pause. Thanks so much for watching this one, and I will see you in the next. Bye.